French President Emmanuel Macron has urged Chinese President Xi Jinping to coordinate closely with Europe over bilateral issues. The Chinese president is in Paris for a trilateral meeting with European leaders in a bid to stabilize relations amid growing trade tensions between China and Europe. Now, according to state media, Mr. Xi reiterated that he viewed relations with Europe as a priority of China's foreign policy, adding that both sides should stay committed to a long-term partnership. A European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, also weighing in on the matter, saying the EU is counting on China to influence Russia to end its aggression on Ukraine. Now, ahead of the meeting, Mr. Macron says France did not want to move away from China, highlighting efforts to avert a trade war involving potential tariffs on Chinese imports. Now, he urges both Europe and China to work towards resolving what he called structural difficulties.
La situation internationale, très clairement, nécessite plus que jamais ce dialogue euro-chinois. Et je l'ai encore exprimé récemment en parlant de notre Europe, nous sommes à un tournant de notre histoire qui impose de faire face et de surmonter les difficultés structurelles, qu'il s'agisse des échanges économiques avec une logique de découplage qui serait néfaste, ou de notre responsabilité à assurer des règles équitables pour tous.
Well, let's get more. Alex Cadier joining us live from Paris. Alex, now, how does the bloc plan to deepen cooperation with China without risking conflict with its allies?
Well, there's certainly an element of carrot and stick in the way that this meeting has been approached, and it's also worth remembering that the European Union is not entirely unanimous on how individual member states should be dealing with trade issues or geopolitical issues with China. And we heard that in Ursula von der Leyen's press conference just a few moments ago. The stick element of that saying the European Union will not hesitate to protect its economic security, and that production surpluses in China that cannot be sold on the domestic market there cannot just end up in Europe, and they cannot have cheap goods flooding, the term she used, into the European markets. But she also said if competition between the two sides is fair, it could lead to thriving and durable economies. So trying to paint a positive picture, trying to encourage President Xi and the Chinese government to make more efforts in that direction, saying that market access in particular should be reciprocal. So an effort on the part of Ursula von der Leyen and President Macron to try and highlight the benefits of more cooperation. We heard that from the French president talking about convergence leading to concrete results in biodiversity and climate cooperation between China, the EU and the United States. So an element of trying to convince, trying to perhaps nudge the Chinese government in a direction the EU would want, rather than drawing hard red lines, at least on trade, on geopolitics. Much clearer messaging from the French president, from Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission president, both of them saying China has to put more pressure on Russia to end its invasion of Ukraine. So certainly a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the messaging from those European leaders at the moment.
Alex, thanks so much from the perspective live from Paris. Now, we want to get China's perspective next. And for that, we go to Deborah Wong. She is live in Hong Kong. Now, Deborah, we know that France and the EU also want President Xi to address trade imbalances as well as the difficulties in addressing Chinese markets, for example. Are concessions likely from Mr. Xi?
Well, it's not immediately clear what Mr. Xi's response would be at the current point, but we have a sense of what he would possibly be considering, because there was a signed article leading up to the visit, and in it, Mr. Xi emphasized that China is committed to opening up its markets. He specifically talked about a deepening cooperation between China and the EU on matters such as innovation as well as green development. And specifically, he raised the example of how Chinese companies are operating battery plants in France, and he's saying that Chinese authorities are in full support of this investment, and he also hopes that France will continue to support these companies and allow them to operate in a fair and equitable business environment. So using this example, really isn't surprising, because the electric vehicle competition really lies at the heart of the trade issue right now, which has spun into an anti-subsidy investigation against Chinese EV makers in Europe, and China on its end has hit back with a brandy probe. So during the meeting, Mr. Xi said he regards Europe as an important partner in pursuing Chinese-style modernization, as well as an important dimension of its foreign policy. So it appears that he is willing to negotiate, to maintain ties, but any new trade terms really has to be to China's benefit. So in his signed article, again, Mr. Xi did talk about making administrative changes to allow foreigners easier access to live, work and travel in China. So we can expect concessions to possibly come in a form of market access reforms to improve the transparency in Chinese regulations and making it easier for foreign companies to come and invest in China, as well as to compete on a level playing field. In that same article, Mr. Xi also said he welcomes more farm-based products from France, as well as cosmetic products from France, to cater to the Chinese market. So we can also expect China to increase imports from the EU, as well as promote greater market access for EU services. And with that, maybe perhaps looking at tariff reductions as well. So it really is a delicate dance that the leaders have to navigate to really avoid a full-blown trade war at this point.
A very complex balance. Deborah Wong reporting live to us from Hong Kong. Thank you.